Hello, my dear friends. Operator Starsky is here, and it's so good to see you, my dear friends. So today we will talk about the recent peace talks that took place in Saudi Arabia involving the US representatives and the Russian terrorists as well. Just a second. I didn't give you permission to transfer Charlie airspace. Some freaking dude flies here. Anyways, so today there were several key points that were agreed on, and they were already published by the Russian terrorists in their media. Hello, Martin. Hello, buddy. Hello, Ali, by the way. Hello, Newman, and everybody else. So they were agreed on, they were already published, and I would really like to discuss them with you because they're extremely interesting, and the fact is not even that what kind of agreement, what kind of key points were discussed, but why. So today, Russians, the Russian terrorists and the US representatives came up with an agreement. According to this agreement between the presidents of the United States and the Russian dictator, both sides, the US and Russia, have agreed to implement the Black Sea Initiative, which would include protecting the safety of navigation in the Black Sea, restriction for use of force, and prevention of using commercial ships for military purposes through inspection of such vessels. That is interesting. That's point number one. Point number two, the United States will assist in restoring access for the Russian exports of agricultural products and fertilizers to the global market. They agreed to assist Russians in reducing the cost of marine insurance and expanding access to ports and payment systems for conducting the trade, conducting such transactions. It's important to remember that these two key points will only come into effect after the sanctions on Russian banks are lifted, and specifically they mentioned Rossельхозbank, and also when the Russian financial institutions that facilitate the Russian agricultural affairs are reconnected to SWIFT. Also, these 2 points will come into effect after the lifting of restrictions on trade and finance operations. Additionally, lifting of sanctions on companies that produce and export food products. Also, lifting restrictions on servicing of ships in the ports internationally, and lifting the sanctions on ships flying the Russian flag that are involved in the trade of Russian agricultural products and goods and fertilizers, and also lifting of restrictions on the supply of agricultural machinery to the Russian Federation. In addition to this, Russia and the United States agreed to develop measures for implementing this is so interesting. They agreed to develop measures to implement the agreement between the United States and Russia. They decided to ban strikes against energy infrastructure in Russia and Ukraine for a period of 30 days, starting March 18, which is literally 7 days ago, with the possibility of extension or withdrawal from the agreement in case of not compliance by either side. It's very important to mention that in addition to this, Kremlin stated that they haven't been attacking Ukrainian energy facilities for a week, except that one in Slovyansk that was attacked in the day when Putin said not to attack Ukraine, right? And they also agreed on a list of facilities that cannot be attacked. I'm sure you wanna know the list of such facilities. So they include oil refineries, of course, on the first place. Who could have thought, right? Are you surprised? I am so much surprised. Also, oil and gas pipelines and storage facilities, including pumping stations. Really, this is such a surprising update. Infrastructure that generates and transmits electricity, including power plants, substations, transformers, and switchgear. Okay, interesting. Nuclear power plants. Obviously, thank you very much. After the attack conducted on Chernobyl power plant, even though it wasn't included in the Ukrainian energy grid, but still, thank you very much, you know. Hydroelectric dams, that is also interesting point. And it is also explicitly stated that in the event of a violation of the moratorium by one of the parties, the other party has the right to consider itself free from obligations to comply with. First of all, we all know how it works, right? There are absolutely no security reassurances to this. What happens if one party violates this agreement, this ban on striking the energy facilities, which already happened, by the way, right? Pete Brady, what about stealing toilets? That was supposed to be on the first place. There are no security reassurances other than if you strike us, we will strike in return. So basically here, United States didn't do anything to reassure that this can last. However, we all know how it works, and we also know that Russia has this absolutely amazing ability to strike at both sides at the same time. There's full YouTube of videos of that. So also, according to Witkoff, 1 week ago, when he stated that Russians shot down 7 drones that apparently were heading towards Ukrainian power plants and energy infrastructure, which I have absolutely no doubt about. So at the same time, the rest of 170 drones heading at Ukrainian apartment buildings were not stopped. Now, my key thoughts about those key points that I listed above. First of all, we must remind ourselves that Ukraine agreed on an unconditional ceasefire, and we have no problem with that. Ukraine wants peace. We agreed on unconditional ceasefire. On the land, on the sea, in the air, we agree. And after we agreed to the unconditional ceasefire, we can see Russia doing what Russia does all the time. They suddenly, unexpectedly started creating and issuing all kinds of demands, all kinds of conditions for the unconditional ceasefire. If Putin wants peace so much as Luis, I promised not to call his name, but the orange guy, he claims that Putin wants peace so much. If it's true, then why didn't Putin did like any first steps? Why didn't he do any first steps to make this unconditional ceasefire, unconditional peace true? Because it completely contradicts with what he did. He invaded Ukraine. So the problem here is that instead of agreeing to stop the fire instantly, immediately, and after that discussing things, Russia starts pulling strings, Russia starts playing the United States representatives and starts issuing different demands, there's millions of nuances and things like that. Why do they do that? Because Russia doesn't want peace. That is the simplest answer that we can have. Ukraine wants peace. That is an obvious fact. We agreed on a ceasefire. The ball was on the Russian field, and now we can see the way they play with that. Instead of agreeing to the ceasefire, Russia keeps plotting. And another interesting comment here is that why it's like, what's so special about the agriculture? Russians and Tucker Carlson, by the way, they also stated that no, Russia feels absolutely fine with today's sanctions. People don't have any additional needs. Russian people feel absolutely fine. You know, sanctions don't work. And all of a sudden, we can see that Russians are pushing those demands to lift sanctions on. It wasn't like the US actually offered them, guys, agree to the ceasefire, we will lift sanctions. No. Russians started demanding, we will agree to the ceasefire, but first, lift sanctions, reconnect to SWIFT, service our vessels and things like that. What's so special about Russian agriculture? The simple answer, not detailed, but the simple answer is that because this is the wrong approach to dealing with atrocious terrorist federation. The easiest way to stop this war, my friends, is to isolate Russia economically. Isolate it completely on the international market, it will collapse tomorrow. But instead of that, we can see this, this gameplay of appeasing the Russian terrorists, lifting sanctions, appeasing them, so they would stop attacking Ukraine, which they invaded. And this is extremely dangerous. Why it's dangerous? It's because Russian fish that will be sold on the international market, Russian fish equals Russian Shaheds and Russian missiles. Reanimating Russian economy will prolong the war. It's not the supplying Ukraine with defense aid. Reanimating Russian economy will prolong the war. And Russians know that. And this is exactly the reason why they try to pull those strings and try to trade peace, like peace, in return for reanimation of their economy so they could continue attacking Ukraine. Not only Ukraine, other European countries, of course, but this is extremely dangerous situation. Kremlin is fully aware of the situation which may happen in case there's Russia's economic collapse. And that is the main reason why they demand lifting sanctions and being reconnected to SWIFT and everything like that. Also, it gives them opportunity to, avoid avoid control, to create different schemes if they have this reconnection to the SWIFT, so they can launder money and stuff. Ernestine says Witkoff is the new Molotov. Absolutely. That is how I see it. Another thing is that we can see switching narrative because, again, what we heard from the American representatives was that Putin wants peace tomorrow. Putin so much wants peace. He wants his soldiers to be safe. He cares about his people. He doesn't want people to die on the battlefield. That is the reason he invaded Ukraine in the first place. But he doesn't want people to die and things like that, which is a complete bullshit and distortion of reality. Blind people can see that. But at the same time, now we can see switching the narratives from Russia wants peace to give us this and that and lift sanctions and love us and accept us back and we are such good guys, you see, do this or we will continue shooting. That is basically the great slogan for the whole Russian terrorist federation and basically the great motto for this process. return us, accept us back into the international community, and we will stop killing people. That is extremely funny. So all those conditions, all those demands issued by Russia and fulfilled by the United States, they indicate to me personally that Russians don't want peace. We will not see this peace deal working. And finally, in the end, Russia will violate its agreements because this is what it always does. All right. Give me one example when Russia would not violate its agreements. Please let me know in the chat, okay? Because I'd really like to know. Another thing that is mentioned by the James Rost in the chat, again, extremely important to remember, is that Russia captured millions of tons of Ukrainian grain from Ukrainian territory. The grain that was either stored in Ukrainian storages, the grain that grew on Ukrainian fields, and things like that. Russia snatched millions of tons of Ukrainian grain and brought it to the Russia-controlled territory. And now Russia, all of a sudden, will have this absolutely amazing capability to trade stolen Ukrainian grain. Not sure if they will be selling, like, Italian toilets around Europe. They're better, they're best at snatching toilets than selling them. But Ukrainian grain is something that they will definitely sell abroad now, internationally. So the summary is Russia is completely unable to agree to an unconditional ceasefire. That is fact. They are unable to agree to the ceasefire without issuing any demands because peace is not something they want. The reason they don't want unconditional ceasefire, simple reason, is because they don't want peace, but more detailed explanation is that Russians understand that the ceasefire is not part of their strategy. Okay, their strategy doesn't involve ceasefires with Ukraine. That is why they will not be respected, such agreements. That is why we will not see this ceasefire happening, or the ceasefire can be, of course, used in order to receive different benefits that will help Russia continue implementing its strategy on a global level. What kind of strategy are we talking about? The best explanation is the Istanbul Protocol, Russia's demands to Ukraine, the four regions, actually there's 5 regions that Russia wants to be recognized as part of Russian territory. And I give you 100% that the current Orange Man's administration is so much respecting the international law that they will absolutely agree to recognize those territories as parts of Russia. 100%. We can see the great example of respecting international recognized borders by the Orange Man. We can see, I'm calling this person the Orange Man, not because of the disrespect to the American people, but because some of my viewers asked not to call his name, because I think you will agree with me that a lot of people already want to vomit when they hear it. So we already saw a great example of respect towards the international border coming from this individual when he decided to buy Greenland, make Canada 51st state, and also said that Ukraine will most probably have to say goodbye to its territories if Ukraine wants peace, because who cares about international borders? They don't exist. If you have power and if you have nuclear weapons, you can do anything. I will prove this to you, right? So we already saw that. Because he's orange like an evil cartoon character from hell. Yeah. Anyways, another summary is that Istanbul Protocol is basically something that can vaguely describe Russian strategy towards Ukraine. So they want occupied regions to be recognized as Russian territory. They want the complete expansion of the foreign and alien Russian culture onto Ukrainian land. And by the way, Witkoff, in his interview to the supporter of the Russian terrorism, Tucker Carlson, said that there were majority of like Russian people living in Donbass and other occupied and partially occupied territories who voted on referendum and stuff like that. The biggest misconception that this clueless individual has right now is that he and people like him believe that Eastern Ukraine and those above mentioned regions were massively populated by like ethnic Russians. So according to all sorts of statistics, Russians were like making like 21 or 17 or 21% of the whole Ukrainian population. Ethnic Russians means people with Russian roots. They were not majority in Ukraine, and living there, they were also not majority. Those regions were not primarily populated by a lot of like Russian population, like vast majority. It's bullshit. It's insane, and this can be debunked easily, literally by checking the Ukrainian statistics that existed before the Russian hybrid war. 21% of people okay, let's assume there were 21% of people who considered themselves Russians. Doesn't mean that they all lived there. It means that if you go to Donbass, 21% of those people consider themselves Russians, and 21% of those people in like Lviv Oblast or in Kiev Oblast consider themselves Russians. I'm not sure, I gotta check it out, but I'm not sure if there were like 21%, the national minority. Just a second, my friends. I just want to confirm this one more time because this is very important. How many Ukrainians considered themselves Russians according to statistics? So 17% identified as ethnic Russians. Please disregard my words about 21%. There is 17. According to the poll, according to the census of 2001. It doesn't mean that when you go to Donbass, they are all Russians, right? And there are none of them like in central Ukraine or in Sumy or in Zhytomyr. It's wherever you go, there's approximately 17% Russian people in Donbass, in Crimea, maybe in Crimea a bit more. But again, if we take a look at the referenda of 1991, Crimea, majority of people in Crimea surprisingly voted to disconnect from the Soviet Union and to be part of independent Ukrainian country. So, alien Russian culture, alien Russian church, expansion of those tools on the territory of Ukraine. That is also part of the Russian strategy. And we understand that this is also some of the basics, some of the foundations of the so-called Russian world / Russian peace, the fascist ideology that is aimed at the world domination. Russians are where we go. That's what they say. Russia is where we are. Why does this screen keep emerging on my screen. I don't want you. Go away. Thank you. And of course, such things as Ukraine never be accepted to NATO. We heard that already, which is again completely supported by the current administration in the United States. Also decimation of Ukrainian armed forces. So Russians basically want Ukraine to decrease the number of its army to laughable 50,000 men, something like that. Why is that? Is that because Russians are afraid that if we have 60,000 men, we will send them to like Moscow, right, and capture Moscow? No, it's not the case. The case is that Russia wants to have this advantage and be able to attack Ukraine anytime and basically capture the land by force. And if they do that, nobody will question them in the end, because if Ukraine disappears, Ukrainian identity disappears, then basically everybody will be like, well, okay, sorry, we did all we could. Now, one thing that wasn't discussed, and actually it was announced as far as I remember, one thing that wasn't discussed during this negotiation was the possibility of returning kidnapped Ukrainian children. There's approximately 20,000 Ukrainian children right now at the Russian territory, at the occupied territories. But generally speaking, on the occupied territories, there's something approximately like 1 million Ukrainian kids right now. But specifically kidnapped and deported Ukrainian children that were deported to the territory of Russia and then indoctrinated in Russian military camps, that's 20,000 Ukrainian kids. The issue of returning those kids was not negotiated. This stuff will not be negotiated apparently anymore because, once again, the current administration in the United States halted the agencies, the specialists that were investigating the cases of Russia committed, particularly the kidnapping of Ukrainian kids. So the US is not investigating that anymore. They will not do anything to make the war criminals face responsibility and justice. They halted it. It won't work anymore. While that man is in the American office, we won't see that happening. And also, they apparently didn't discuss this issue with Russians today as well. Why is that? Well, apparently because Russians are not really planning to return Ukrainian kids whatsoever. So apparently they just asked, that is my opinion, but apparently they just asked the US representatives not to even mention this. Okay, let's not talk about it. So it was a summary regarding the US-Russia peace talks. The more global summary that I can make is that generally Russians are not planning to establish peace other than destroying Ukraine. They will have to switch all their strategy right now if they're now pushed towards making this decision to make the peace deal with Ukraine and stuff like that. They will have to rebuild their old strategy. They will have to remove their military camps for kids. They will have to, I don't know, become more democratic, maybe eventually. Their geopolitical and generally their global objective is to destroy Ukraine, to make Ukraine an attachment to the Russian Empire. And I don't see Putin literally abandoning this plan, because they already built that huge and long-range plan that will take years to fully implement, fully establish, and I don't see Russians changing anything. What I can see is the signs that Russians are trying to win some benefits for them to reanimate their economy, to invest more in the war, because currently they're spending tremendous money on the war. Currently, there is war economy in Russia, which again cannot just stop, because it will cause big collapse on the Russian market, big collapse on the market of the employees, right? So this is what I see. Please let me know if I'm wrong. Please let me know your thoughts in the commentaries. I'm trying to do my best actually to, avoid raising the topic of the orange president. Again, no disrespect, okay? No disrespect, I just don't want to call his name. But at the same time, oh my god, when you look at Witkoff, a real estate guy who was yesterday selling like apartments, and today he negotiates peace deal between Russia and Ukraine in some of the biggest wars that Europe has seen since 1945. That is one thing. I don't even I don't even want to discuss this. This is completely wrong, okay, from any standpoint. But when he starts talking about Putin who wants peace, that there's also two sides, to any war. War is always about more than one person. That Putin is generally, he's not a bad guy. Not at all. Yes, he invaded, he killed, he eliminated his opposition, he eliminated his independent media, he changed constitution, so now he can rule forever. He poisoned people with polonium, with Novichok. He committed plenty of sabotage around the world. Putin is de facto bad guy. Putin is bad guy from any standpoint. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Putin is bad from any standpoint. More than 90% Americans nowadays, even among the MAGA, consider Russia and consider Putin a bad guy. And when this absolutely clueless individual tells you that, oh, he's such a peaceful dude, he was misunderstood, makes me wanna, makes me sick. It makes me wanna vomit, because Putin looks like a peaceful guy when you look at Russia from your penthouse, I don't know, in New York or Washington. But when you are in Kiev under the missile strike, doesn't really seem like a case, So those 17% should have been deported. My god, I'm breaking my studio right now. Literally, I'm moving everything that I wasn't supposed to move. You see, the problem is that people have this absolutely blessed ability. They are blessed with this gift of being able to travel. If you don't want to live in Ukraine and you want to live in Russia, you just buy tickets and you fly. You use this magic of air travel, or if you like to enjoy, the landscapes out of the window of a train, you can do that with your family. You can actually enjoy them for 2 weeks while traveling to Vladivostok, right? You can do that. Why people do that, generally speaking? Why people travel from Turkey to Europe, from Europe to Australia, and backwards? Why do they do that? Because we have internationally recognized borders. that basically remove the necessity to fight wars. You want to live in a different country, you go to a different country yourself. You don't bring it to your home. As easy as that. And unfortunately, only one country of the world doesn't understand this. They don't understand that it works like that. They understand that if you want to live in Russia, if you live like physically in like Kherson, then you gotta call Russian soldiers to Kherson. And that is a wrong approach in the 21st century. That is completely wrong. This is not how the peace works. And that is the reason why Russians are so much despised and hated, because they don't give a slightest damn about the international law. And unfortunately, we can see similar tendencies in the current US administration. And that, my friend, is extremely concerning. Better don't use Russian planes, though. Yeah, I agree on that, because Russian air industry is completely effed these days, my friends. They're so since 2023, they had the biggest number of air. My God, I forgot the English word. They had the biggest amount of, like, not disasters, but like the smaller version of disaster. Please give me a hint in the chat how to call it. Situations, right, regarding their airplanes. And I would not even recommend anybody to fly their airplanes unless you're Prigozhin. Then I would definitely recommend doing that. Accidents, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that is another interesting thing. 17 identify as Russians in Ukraine. In Estonia, the number is 28. Not all of those who identify themselves as Russians are waiting for, like, Russian green men, neither in Estonia nor in Ukraine. For real. Guys, for example, take a look at the United States. How many people from Japan, how many people from Mexico, other Latin countries live there? How many people from Europe, Germans, Dutch people, French people? How many ethnic minorities live in the United States nowadays? And they are considered, and they are part of the American nation, right? Multinational nation. But it's extremely cool. Doesn't mean that the French people living in the United States want to, invite French military and snatch a state, on behalf of, like, France and connected to France. Or it doesn't mean that people who come from the Netherlands and live in the United States like several generations already, that they want their state to be attached to the Netherlands. No. Generally, people who come to a different country to live there, this is their choice. They make this choice because it benefits them, because this is something they wanted to do. Otherwise, they would remain in their countries, right? It's logical. Therefore, it doesn't matter, even if like 40% of people living in your country identify themselves as Russians, it doesn't mean that all of those people automatically endorse Putin and want to, like, puke on your children's playgrounds and throw like empty bottles, condoms, and syringes everywhere. No, it's not the case. But again, Russians are trying to distort reality and present this as fact, that if this person, not even a Russian person, but if this person speaks Russian, he's automatically part of the Russian world and he automatically hates everything Ukrainian and he's automatically repressed. Because according to this logic, people living in the United States Australia, New Zealand, and Canada must have British passports right now. It's crazy and it's kind of cringy. But somehow through big paid opinion makers, they make it seem as if this is the fact. Generally, can I do this? Yes, I think I can. Europe has provided more than 800 tanks to Ukraine since 2022. The USA, yeah, that's the thing. Generally, Europe provided much more tanks than the United States. Do you know Philip Ittner, war journalist? Yes, I do. He's my good friend, and he's an extremely, extremely good journalist. He has a really good background in journalism. And speaking of the tanks that were provided to Ukraine, so I'm not sure if you watched my recent episode on the UATV. I talked about it because recently Russians published the fresh version of Ukrainian losses. And according to those numbers, Ukraine lost 22,500 tanks and armored vehicles combined. So if we're talking about tanks, I know that there's approximately 11,000 tanks and armored vehicles in whole Europe at this very point. So Ukraine received, as of today, Ukraine received 859 tanks and approximately 7,000 armored vehicles, making it roughly 12,000 vehicles combined, the tanks and the BTRs, APCs, and things like that. And if you combine this number with all the European tanks, that makes the approximate number that the Russians were talking about. It's so cringy. It's as if Russians already eliminated all the tanks in Europe. And when they stop destroying the European tanks, because Europe already has no tanks, as we probably know, then apparently they will have to search them I don't know, on lunar surface or in a different galaxy. That is crazy. I wanted to make also several small announcements, my friends. My God, why don't you unlock? I'm sorry. I feel a bit nervous because I had 5 cups of coffee today, but it was worth it. Did Ukraine by accident got a few tanks off Russia when they retreated? So according to what I know, in 2023, roughly half of tanks that were used by Ukraine were actually land-leased from Russia. I know that around 400, 500 tanks that were in Ukrainian army at that time, they were taken from the retreating Russian troops. But I wanted to make several announcements for my friends. I wanted to make 3, but I remember 2. Why did I forget the first one? Anyways, so we launched the library of Russian fakes, the Orcopedia, and actually that is something that I wanted to happen last year, but I had to switch to decaffeine. Lars, I feel your pain, unfortunately. I feel your pain. I would prefer literally sitting here with a spoon and eating caffeine instead of drinking that. But first of all, we launched the Orcopedia, the library that you can access on the website of the Propaganda Study Institute. And this stuff will be updated, I believe, on a daily basis. So what is this? You probably know that creative Russian propagandists produced hundreds, if not thousands, of Russian fakes, of different cases of Russian disinformation over the years. And I decided that it's probably a good thing to collect them and have them all in one place with an easy option to search whatever you want to search. So we have it on the website of the Propaganda Study Institute right now. I believe, yeah, Ali pasted that in the chat, so you can check it out yourself. Currently, there's not a lot of, like 100 of them are there already, but they will be updated. I'm currently processing 1,300 commentaries that you left in my publication in the community posts. So I will process them, and all of those fakes will be collected, processed, and debunked, and soon you will see them in this library, in this database. I'm not really sure even how to call it. Orcopedia, this is how I call it, because basically it is. Another update is that we are launching that school for content creators very, very soon. We're literally finishing the technical steps. It will be launched, I believe, maybe next week, maybe earlier. Please stay tuned. I will let you know, my friends. We will make a big announcement on this, and you will hear about it from different people involved in this affair. Okay, you will hear from different YouTubers and different content creators about the launch of this school. So what you can do if you want to participate, if you see yourself as a content creator, or you know somebody who wants to become a content creator, I believe that you can definitely direct those people to our page and help them apply. What else? Does mushroom coffee taste magical? I'm not sure if it tastes magical, but I'm sure that it has like magical abilities. I believe that you can discover all kinds of magic about yourself if you try. I'm not brave enough to do that. So did Ukraine? The tanks. Philip Itner. So tired of time for Europe to step up like Europe is a country. Yeah, that's the thing. The biggest strength of Europe actually is that Europe is not a single country. That is the biggest strength. Why is that? It's because it's very easy to conduct an informational operation in a single country, especially if it's monocultural country, meaning that it's populated by roughly same people with like roughly the same religion and stuff. It's extremely easy because it's easy to research those people and perform your informational operation. When we're talking about Europe, it means that you will need a lot of different experts, a lot of different specialists, a lot of people from those countries to be able to brainwash people in each given country. That is why Europe is extremely strong, and that is why Russian disinformation sucks so much when it comes to Europe. What's a little Novichok between friends? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Why do you care about Tavares Trump's? Oh my God, I called his name. I'm really, really sorry, Luis. I wasn't careful enough. Why do we care what he says? Literally because he has a reach. He has not reach, but reach. He can reach a lot of people. For example, on Twitter, you know that pro-Ukrainian content makers, they have their views throttled, which means I had 120,000 followers on X, and my reach was the same size as the reach I have nowadays on Blue Sky, having 7,000 subscribers. You can see the difference, and a lot of content creators notice that that's the case. But at the same time, President Zelensky still has good reach when you create a new account on Twitter. On first place, they offer you to follow like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, who else, you know. On the second place, they offer you to follow Volodymyr Zelensky. Why is that? Because Volodymyr Zelensky is a public figure, he's a president, and no matter how hard you try to throttle this person, like it's impossible. Generally speaking, X does not throttle people like President Zelensky because, generally speaking, Twitter earns money by allowing people to access his page. What I wanted to say, unfortunately, there are people who have big reach when they speak, and as people who fight Russian disinformation and generally disinformation, people who fight ignorance, we must react. We will not have the same reach as those people. We will not have same reach as Team Pool right now on YouTube, because he has paid promotion on his channel, and basically they pay YouTube to make their channels more reachable for other users. I am conscious of the fact that we will not be able to invest billions like Russia does in people like Tim Pool or Tucker Carlson, but on the other hand, we can still talk about it and share our views on this. And also we can debunk the bullshit, because unfortunately at this very moment, the bullshit coming from the Trump administration is overwhelming. Same with Russia, but Russia produces bullshit by default. This is what they do. This is what makes them a terrorist federation. But the bullshit coming from individuals like Wheatkov, etc., we have to react to this. Even though for people like you, it may be obvious that they produce bullshit. But we have to be honest. Not everybody has analytical thinking or critical thinking. Not everybody can analyze this stuff. And we have to help those people understand the situation. What's with people who just want to help them creators in the background? Where do we turn? Subscribe, follow, and share. And this is the best you can do, literally, because again, if we're talking about the paid pro-Russian propagandists that we will see growing in numbers very, very soon, approximately since 31st of March. So they can promote their content, and platforms like YouTube and other platforms will give absolutely no damn what kind of content they're talking about, if it's a misinformation or not, whatever, because they're paying money and they do advertisement. So we will not be able to like invest and promote our content with funds. But the most effective thing is you guys leaving people who share this content, who are active in the commentaries, and this is the best support that you can provide to us. If there is engagement in the commentaries, if there are likes, if there are shares of this content, these help our content to be disseminated, right? And that works better and more effectively than, for example, when Russians invest like millions, because this is natural reach. This is the best case, so to say. Actually, Russians not really ready to do anything unless they have finances, unless they either pay or are getting paid. They are not ready to work literally for idea. This is not how Russia was built, right? Russia was built on corruption, and Russia was built on the idea of having a benefit. Generally speaking, they trade death. That is the situation, and you will not see Russians going on the streets fighting for their rights for free, or like protesting for free, like Ukrainians during the Revolution of Dignity, for example, or like Georgians right now on the streets, or like Iranians fighting against the regime of Khamenei. You will not see that in Russia because, like, if you pay them, then yeah, maybe they will go and have a small protest in the heart of Berlin, right? But they're not ready to fight for the idea, they're not ready to fight for values. That is another reason why I despise them and I have full right as a Ukrainian. When I see a media post that I like, one that shows Ukraine's success on the battlefield, is it okay for me to write Heroim Slava? Yes, Antonio, of course, you can do that. So regarding Janine, dear friends, first of all, thank you so much for your support. It was extremely, extremely important for her. She called me she texted me the other day. She said that she found a relative who will agree to support her financially, like her treatment, her medical treatment, her rehabilitation. So she was literally harassing me so I would remove the donation links from the publication. I did all I could as fast as possible. She said, thank you big time. I think we will expect either a post from her or something like that. So the most recent updates, she went out of coma. She can communicate through the phone. She feels better because she's a warrior, and I know that she's a strong person. Regarding the driver, I don't have updates. I believe that they're still looking for this dude who hit her because the car was unregistered. Maybe it was stolen. I don't know. But generally, Janina is feeling better. Recovery will take a lot of time, but other than that, she'll be fine, hopefully. Lawrence, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much. I am the one who must be grateful. And you know that I will always be grateful. I'm scared how groupthink works. That's why they claim all other protests are paid. Yes, my friend, because this is how Russians keep their disinformation running, they literally project what they do. They like, okay, what's the shittiest thing that we did so far? We bombed civilians, we killed people, we did mass graves, we committed several artificial natural disasters. Let's say that Ukrainians did that, and then nobody will believe that this is us. Unfortunately, this strategy has been utilized by Russians, oh my God, for quite a while. Okay, my dear friends, I just injured myself because with these very hands, I've been cleaning the onion just before the stream. And to show you what I did, because I think that we can switch to discussing food already. Let me show you this. So let me close this commentary and show you this. So this is the most Ukrainian thing you can imagine, okay? That's Ukrainian dumplings with cheese and mashed potato. So, Palopteryx, don't laugh. It hurts really bad, actually. I was like cutting the onion, and my hands still covered in that magical juice of onion stuff. Yeah, it hurts bad. So that is dumplings with onions that you gotta fry on the frying pan. Not until they're black, okay, like on the picture, but a bit like tanned, right? And we have pickled cucumbers and pickled cabbage. The black things, Cindiata, is literally onion. That's something that hurt my eye right now. Pickled cucumbers and pickled cabbage. And today, my friends, what was the very first case when I forgot how they're called in Ukrainian. And when I was talking to my lady, I told her that we will have pickled ohirki and kapusta. I forgot how they're called in English. Yeah. And I said that we will have pickled ohirki and pickled kapusta. And she understood, which was interesting. But she understood. All right. Nothing special, but now I have this kind of food porn. Oh my God, I cannot say this word. Food porn. Habit of taking photos of what's on my table. And Greg, that is something that you can call pierogi. If you're in Poland and you call it pierogi, you will not be wrong. And if you are in Ukraine and you call it vareniki, you will also not be wrong. Can you get avocados in Ukraine? Absolutely, absolutely. In Ukraine, we have all sorts of different veggies coming from all around the world, avocado included. I can tell because I am someone who cooks sushi since early 2000s, middle 2000s maybe. Food porn, because you cannot say that word on YouTube. Maybe you can, I don't know. And this is, my friend, is what I call the proper pickled cucumbers, because vinegar, I don't know any living human being who would prefer pickled cucumbers in vinegar. I have no idea why they sell them so much, like any jar that you can see in the supermarket that's actually pickles with vinegar. I have no idea why. But whoever I ask, They all tell me that like they it doesn't taste well. And proper cucumbers is proper pickles is like that stuff. When it contains horseradish, when it contains garlic and other spices, you can be sure that that's the right thing. Pickled gherkin. Ah, the turkey meat in Germany is called Puten. Turkey meat. You go to like supermarket and you can see a lot of Puten uh, on the shelves in the fridge. I have never eaten pickled cucumbers that were not in vinegar. Oh my god. I don't know what to say. It's like it's almost like you have never been happy, seriously, because proper cucumbers, they I believe they don't even contain vinegar. They contain like they smell like garlic and horseradish and the green field in the morning and like I don't know, like a village, you know, hard to explain. It's a different thing. You gotta try it. I can advise if you have a uh, Turkish store or Arabic store. Sometimes they're sold there, and I believe they call them like salad something, salad, whatever. Salad cucumbers. If you find that word on the jar, there's a big chance that you will not be wrong. Find them there. Also, if you have a Polish store, go there and find górki kwaszone babuni, grandma's pickles. Those are the best. The other day, we met with Georgie, like last year. the other year, we met with Georgie and we were talking about those pickles. I don't know if you have that in your culture, but actually, if you have a hangover, if you wake up and as soon as you open your eyes, you feel like, you know, you would rather not wake up, you know, try drinking that stuff. Not the vinegar. I'm talking about the proper pickles. Try drinking the liquid, the water. It works so well. It will revive you like immediately. I think you have that in your. Some of you have that in your culture because when you see people drinking that in the morning, you can be like 100% sure that they come from like a proper place, you know. They've seen shit in their lives. uh, I make my own brand pickles. They taste like Clausen refrigerator pickles. I didn't try like those specific ones. Pickle juice really cured my leg cramps. Pickle juice can literally resurrect people, you know, when like your bro just cannot stand up physically because he still feels good since yesterday. You can just give him like a sip and your bro will be resurrected immediately. Worked so many times. It's called hair of a dog drink for a hangover. Oh my god. Hey Jason, how are you? I like drinking pickle juice. I like it too, especially if it's like pickled tomato. I'm not a big fan of pickled tomatoes myself, but the pickled tomato juice, like pickled juice from those tomatoes, just so perfect. Pickle juice on the ambulance, yes, bro. I think you should like have a jar or two in the ambulance just in case, because mm, you face different people, on the streets. Zelava chorba и rakia. Rakia is good. Rakia is a Turkish beverage, and it's really interesting. Like, it's transparent. It looks like vodka. It's transparent, but proper way to drink rakia is to mix it with water, and when you mix it with water, it turns into like gray, like opaque. It stops being transparent. The tourists who come to Turkey usually take rakia and mix it with Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola. And locals look at them with like hate, like, why are you doing this? So on the other hand, I tried it back in the days when I would allow myself some alcohol. I tried rakia with cola, and it wasn't bad. Just don't tell our Turkish friends about it because they will hate me. Yes, yes, my friend. This is how some of the not so clever tourists do that, including myself. Rakia goes well with donor. Yes, I agree on that. Speaking about dogs, I'm getting my new puppy tomorrow. Oh my god. Congratulations. Let us know what kind of dog. Rakia's Iran. Ah. So, Iran is like, oh my god, how to call it? It's like a drink. I cannot even compare it to anything else. It's like kefir with gas or something like that. That's just my impression of. Bulgarian rakia. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I didn't try the Bulgarian one. Never in my life, but hopefully I will after the war is finished. I used to like you, man, but Raki's. I'm so sorry. Guys, not a big expert in alcohol. Excuse me. I'm just not a big expert in like wines and drinks. I know that if there is a worm in it, then it's either tequila or a good Russian. So that's the only thing I know. Okay, my dear friends, this will be a rather short stream. I will run because I need to finish some technical stuff for our school. Regarding those key points that were agreed today, again, I would not be hopeful. We know that Russians always violate their agreements. There was no agreement that was not violated by Russians, and I don't think that we will see any changes here at all. Russian ceasefire is not something that Russians involved in their strategy. It's not something they need because we want that they won't to destroy Ukrainian identity, Ukrainian nation, and eventually the rest of the world. So not like I would encourage you to bet on it, save your money, but be sure that this is exactly what we will see, that Russia will not respect the peace. With that, my dear friends, I would like to wish you a beautiful day or beautiful night, wherever you are. And big thanks to our moderators, big thanks to our supporters, big thanks to all the members of my channel. You guys keep me running, keep my channel running. Thank you so much. And also big thanks for supporting Ukraine. We will see you later, and be safe. Bye-bye.